Dear sisters and brothers, we have successfully completed the first day of the Maas Parayan. I think it got off very beautifully. All the reciters have done so well, and have so wonderful principles, melodious tunes, in which you heard the first 25 stanzas of the Mass. Now, we would like to call upon our Sri Kissoon Behari. Kissoon Behari is very, very deeply into the scriptures. He has been a student of the scriptures for many years, and we asked him to do a summary of today's verses with some insights and its relevance and significance to us in this day and age. Kissoon Behari.
Jai Shri Ram. Somebody has taken the main ideas from here. I've left out some, and I've just expanded on some. This is an error on my part, initiative I'm asking. Please forgive me for this. But you will catch the main ideas, I think. Tulsi Ji traditionally and characteristically commences his Ramayan with an invocation to Mother Saraswati and Lord Ganesha. From both of them come sound, and from sound comes the alphabets. And words are made of alphabets, our language and speech is made from that. And the use of language, especially poetry, requires techniques and proper use of language. And these, together with the emotions that are infused into the language, come through the grace of Lord Ganesha and Mother Saraswati. Therefore, he commences with this invocation to both of them. Thereafter, he invokes Mother Parvati and Lord Shiva. But he doesn't only see them as two deities. He says that Mother Parvati is reverence and Lord Shiva is faith and the eternal teacher. Then he says Rishi Valmiki, and Rishi Valmiki, he is the great Rishi who wrote the Ramayana. He is the first poet. Then he turns to Mother Sita, and he makes pranams to her, bows down to her, and gives salutations to her. There are three descriptive phrases or words that are here. Firstly, he says that Mother Sita is responsible for the whole of creation, its sustenance, and finally the dissolution of this creation. Then she is the remover of afflictions, and lastly it is she who gives the blessings. Then in the next invocation he adores Lord Hari, who he says is known by the name of Sri Ram. This Sri Ram, or this Hari, is beyond all causes. Everything that we do has a cause, and that cause has an effect. That effect in turn becomes a cause of something else. So there is a chain of movements. But Lord Hari is without cause. He is beyond this cause. And it is He who holds sway over the entire universe. And this we said earlier, this entire universe is Mother Sita. And his feet, the feet of Sri Ram or Lord Hari, is the means of crossing over this ocean, this samsara that is there. These two are very beautiful invocations, because we do not see Sri Ram and Mother Sita as two deities or two figures only. They are representations of deeper philosophical thoughts. In Sankhya philosophy, this Mother Sita will be referred to by the name Prakriti, that which performs the action. Prakriti, Kriti means to do. And Sri Ram would be referred to as the Purusha. These two entities are there. So it's a dualistic system. It means there are two entities are there. Now this Mother Sita represents creation and all that comes with it. And we know that in creation there is so much of good, but there is also one, we just put it like this, one hell of a lot of suffering is there. But it is not only that Mother Sita or the creative aspect of God gives us this world with its suffering. She is the one that removes the afflictions, removes our afflictions. How strange to conceive this. It boggles the mind to think that she creates and there is pain and suffering in this, and yet she takes us out of it. The same idea you will find in Devi Mahatmya as well. Mother is both the great demoness and she is the great Devi at the same time. So when you look at these opposites of things, it boggles the mind, and we can only understand them not by discourse, not by reading, but by meditating on these things. This in Adhyatma Ramayana, it's interesting that immediately the anonymous writer, we don't know who he is, comments and he says that Sri Ram is Purusha and Mother Sita represents Prakriti. The same idea you find in the Vedanta. There is one God, Brahman, and this Brahman becomes many. It is he who becomes this universe. Now how the Vedanta explains it is that God is, and this whole universe is an illusory projection. It is called Maya. This Maya is used in Rig Vedic hymns, you see, as Indra created something out of his Maya. That is magic. So the Lord has created a magic, and this whole world is a magic. Magic can be enjoyable, but if you are participating in it, it may not be always as enjoyable. This Sri Ram then becomes that supreme one who has become this, put it another way, this Lord, this Brahman, which is the one God without a second in the Upanishads and in the Vedas, that takes on a human form, and Tulsi Ji says that is Sri Ram. He is that one. And why does he do this? He says it is because of the devotees, in order to fulfill the wishes, the desires, the spiritual wishes and desires of the devotees, that he takes on this form. Later on he will tell us that God in this form goes through immense suffering sometimes, but his devotees gain through that, and they get the benefits and the joys of it. There is an extended invocation and praise of the teacher. It is extremely beautiful. The imagery that Tulsidas Ji uses is so refined, so beautiful. I've been an English teacher, and when I first read Ramayana and I read this, I was totally amazed at the use of language. Now you must understand, I'm reading this in English, and if I could only understand the Avadi text, how beautiful it would be. Now I'm a little more smarter, a little more sharper. So 3-4 words every now and then I can catch, and I tell you, it touches the heart. You can feel that image just start to grow like a seed. You'll catch it. And rather than giving translation of this, I can only say to you, please read these sections where he tells the glory of the teacher. Now, continuing some of the ideas that we said earlier, that God is one, but it comes in a dualistic form. This idea is elaborated, and in Doha 18, Tulsidas Ji says that though Mother Sita and Sri Ram are seen or stated to be different, they are identical. Now, how this identity comes between them? There is an object. We say this is book. Now take this object. You cannot understand this object without the word book. And if I use the word book, it cannot be understood unless the picture of a book comes into the mind. This is a very interesting analysis of the relationship between word and object and thought. My knowledge of it extends only how much we learnt as in our teacher training course. But in Indian philosophy, and here I'm catching glimpse of it, is that there is a great analysis of the relationship between the object and the sound. About sound also, Tulsi Ji says this Rama sound. I think I'll come back to it when I come back. My mind just starts to run like this. Now, why does Tulsi Ji write this Ramayana? Simple one line. He says, I am writing it for my own gratification, not to get praise from someone, not to show anyone that I am doing a piece of work so that everybody will take this and analyze it and say, oh, what a great poem this is. He does it for his own enjoyment, which is an attitude that is, perhaps it is an indication for all sadhakas to create this kind of attitude in our worship, in our service to the Lord. Now this story of Sri Ram is not an ordinary story. It is a story that brings delight and contentment to the world. By reading this Ramayana, a great blessing comes upon us. And with this blessing, the impurities that are in our minds, the impurities that are existing in this Kali age, slowly get wiped away. Now there is a large section in which Tulsi Ji then talks. He greets the good people and he greets the not so good people. The saintly people and the, like me, are not so good people. Now why? I found it very odd that he should greet the evil-natured people. The answer is quite obvious on second thoughts for me, but for smarter people it should be first thought. Because he said this whole world is created by God, and it is God. This Mother Sita is here, and this universe is an admixture of both good and evil. And this good and evil has come from God only. God is not neither good nor evil. When you look at this concept from the top, you do not see the good and the evil. When you look at it from where we are, then we say what is good and what is evil. And the interesting thing is, what I may consider good, you may not consider good, and what I may consider evil, you may not consider, because it is so relative. So by not seeing this difference, he is greeting all of them, but then also at another level, he wants the goodwill of everybody, doesn't want to get on the bad side of bad people. A beautiful image again is used to describe the company or the assembly of holy people. There is a place, Prayag. Here, three rivers, the Ganga, the Jamuna and the Saraswati meet. The Ganga and the Jamuna come on the surface and the Saraswati comes on the bottom. If you have been there, you will find that the three colors of the water are there, and this Saraswati river comes bubbling up. It's white, it's nice, almost like a frothy white it is. This place is a very holy place, and this assembly of saints and sages is like this Prayag, extremely holy place. And he describes this assembly of saints and sages will move together. It describes them as a moving Prayag. And these three rivers represent Bhakti, Karma and Jnana. And among sages, these three components are always there. There is Bhakti, you will get from them, Jnana you will get from them, and the correct attitude towards work you will gain from them. So these three are there. Now, he often amazing number of times, Tulsi Ji says, I am no poet. I do not know the use of language. I find this little amusing, I tell you, because his poetry is so exquisite. His images are so exquisite. They're just taken from everyday things, like, you hold a flower in your hand, the scent of the flower comes into your hand. Cotton, he describes saints as having the quality, because the cotton has no taste, and yet out of it cloth is made and it covers something. So beautifully he is able to tell these things in an everyday in an everyday context that we are easily able to understand this. Now comes discussion of this name Rama and his glories. First, he said this Rama, R-A-M. There are three parts to this name. So this R sound, this R, R and Ma represents Agni, Surya and Chandrama in that order. It represents fire, sun and moon, or Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara. So this name of Sri Ram embodies everything as it were. Then there is also a description of how this Ram and the Ma are. Those of you who know this Hindi or Devanagari alphabets, you know that if the Ra is preceded by another consonant, then it becomes a half circle or like a half circle or a hook on the top, then that looks like an umbrella. And the Ma, we use anuswar, it becomes a dot. So these two look like an umbrella and a jewel. And this covers all the alphabets and it is a jewel. So this name of Ram spreads over all speech as it were. Now, Lord Shiva himself knows the glory of this name, and there are a number of instances of this. One is that in the scriptures, in the Puranas, we will find that Lord Shiva at Kashi, see where the bodies are cremated, then Mother Kali is there. She cuts off the knots of karma. And Lord Shiva whispers the Tarak mantra, that is the Ram Nam, into the right ear of the departed soul, and in that way, that soul is liberated. Then Lord Shiva also, once you remember the churning of the ocean, all these goodies came out of the ocean when they churned it, and also some poison came out of it. And the deities did not know what to do with this. And Lord Shiva took it, you know the story, he took it in the story. That power by which he is able to hold it in his throat is the name Ram. By that he is able to keep it. Then Mother Parvati also knows the efficacy of this name. Once it was dinner time and Lord Shiva said to his wife, as it is a very family context, come my dear, let us eat together. She said, no, I can't eat now because I did not recite the Vishnu Sahasranam. Vishnu Sahasranam takes a little while to read the whole thing. So he was not going to read, he said, let's do a shortcut, I think. He said, just take the name of Ram once and it is equivalent to reciting the whole of the Vishnu Sahasranam, the 1,000 names of God. This one name, Rama, is equal to 1,000 other names of the Lord. So Mother accepted that, said the name and ate. He was so pleased with the obedience, I think. I can get really bad now. He was so pleased with this obedience of his wife, this is an important thing, that he gave her half of his body to her. She is part of him. Just other narration is there. See, there are so many different ways that we read of how these things are explained. Now, the other deities also know the importance of this name. They call the gods that now who is the foremost amongst us all. So Lord Brahma said, okay, you have a race, go around the world and come back, and whoever comes first gets to be known as the foremost among the deities. So they all went off. Lord Ganesha did not know what to do, and I think Rishi Narada it was, so he said, okay, look, do one thing. The long and the short of it is, the name Rama is written on the ground and he circumambulates that. And that is equivalent to going around the world. So that is why we worship Lord Ganesha first before any undertaking, before we commence our pujas, etc. Now this name of Ram, this Ram Nam, it removes impurities, it removes our vice, it removes the terrible things that are inside us, they all go away. And Tulsi gives a number of instances. One of them is how Valmiki Rishi himself at first was Ratnakar. And Ratnakar was a terrible man. He was a robber, murderous by nature, And then he understood by the grace of the Saptarishis that were there that this is a terrible error that he is making, and they said to him, okay, you can get out of it, repeat the name of Ram. But he could not say Ram, he could say not Rama, but he could say Mara. But repeating this thing in reverse, comes a right eventually. He continued the repetition of this name, and such a joy was there in this, such a joy is there, that this sinful man was repeating this Ram Nam, and a great joy came. It's a good lesson for all sadhakas, that the intensity in doing japa brings this joy. Sometimes you say, I sat so long for japa, nothing happened. Nothing happened because I was not concentrating. My mind was elsewhere. My mouth is only telling the words, the tongue is moving, my japa mala fingers are moving, mala is telling, but my mind is elsewhere. But with Ratnakar, his mind was focused. He knew he had a problem, he had to come out of it. So much so, an ant-heap grew over him. And he still continued. And ages later, the rishis came and they said, right, now Valmiki come forth. He came forth and he became the great rishi that we know. I'm going to skip some of these things. I'm looking at the clock as we're going. Now, in Doha 23 following, there are a number of instances of how the name of Ram is superior to God or Sri Ram himself. So some examples are given. Sri Ram redeemed one female only, but his name has given salvation to countless millions. This reference here is to the story of Ahalya. Now Ahalya is said to have been created by the mind of Lord Brahma himself, and she is the representation of beauty and all feminine graces. So exquisite woman she is. She was given in marriage to Lord Gautam, who is to Rishi Gautam. Lord Indra saw her and he was enamored of her. He fell for her as it were, and he fell from the heavens, came down to the earth, and he seduced this woman. But Gautam Rishi found that out and he cursed him and he cursed her. She took the form of a stone. Some other stories you hear that she just had to be laid in an invisible form. But the stone story is here in Tulsikrit Ramayan. She turns to the stone and stays like that, and keeping her name on Sri Ram because he was told that when Sri Ram comes, he will liberate you. You can return to your form. So her mind was there, and this thinking of this God in the form of Sri Ram, she becomes pure, and when he touches her with his foot, she comes out and she is purified at this time. Then Sri Ram killed one demoness, one Taraka, at the very beginning, when the Rishi Vishwamitra is taking them, him and Lakshmanji through this forest. Now there was a forest there which used to be a good place, but this Yaksha woman, you see, Yakshas are not so bad looking, but this Yaksha, okay, I'll tell you the story. This Yaksha woman had, when she was born, she received the great boon that she would have the strength of, 100 to 1,000 elephants. She was married to one Sundar, I think, and he was killed because he was a baddie. He was killed by a curse by Rishi Agastya. And she went to attack Rishi Agastya. Rishi Agastya cursed her and his son Maricha. This Maricha also features in the Ramayana. The curse was that she should become a demoness, she should have an ugly face, misshapen face, etc. And this area where she was, she would eat up anyone that came by. And Sri Ram it is who kills her with an arrow on the instruction of Rishi Vishwamitra. Then we see that Sri Ram breaks the bow when he marries Mother Sita, and Tulsidas says that although he broke the bow, but the glory of his name dispels the fear of rebirth. The story of Lord Shiva is interesting. You remember the story of Daksha. Daksha had a great sacrifice. Mother Parvati went there without the permission of her husband, and big problems happen like that. Lord Shiva found that no offerings was made to him, and he came there with this big bow of his, and he threatened to cut off all the heads of the devas that were there. But they propitiated him, pleaded with him, and he said, okay. That bow was given to the great-grandfather or grandfather of King Janaka, and that was kept with that family. Then subsequently Mother Sita was born when King Janaka was preparing the ground by using a plough for some sacrifice was to be done. So he was cleaning up the yard as it were. And out of this ploughing, this furrow came out, this baby child, and understandably she was called Sita, one that comes out of the furrow. So she grew up to be a remarkable young lady, and he said he was going to get her married to someone suitable. Who would be suitable for her? Someone who was heroic but full of valor. So he said, whoever was able to pick up this bow and sting it, that. And there was a Swayamvar. Rishi Vishwamitra brought Lakshmanji and Sri Ram to that place. None of them were able, none of the suitors were able to even move the bow. And you know the story. Sri Ram, with the permission of his teacher, picked up the bow and strung it, broke it as well. Then this Tulsi Ji says that he, that is Sri Ram, restored the charm of the Dandak forest. But his name purifies countless devotees. And this Dandak forest is where Sri Ram spent most of his time when he was in exile. This is Dandak. There was one Dandak character. He was the son of Ikshwaku. Ikshwaku had 100 sons, and this fellow, Dandak was one of them. But he was a baddie. He was such a baddie, such a terrible fellow he was, that he molested the daughter of his guru, Shukracharya. Shukracharya, of course, would not tolerate this. He cursed him, and all of them were destroyed, and this forest itself lost its charm and its beauty. But some rishis came there. This forest is also called Janastan. Jana meaning people. Some people also came there. Rishis came there, or saintly people came there. But they were harassed by the two cousins of Ravana, Kara and Dushana. Once Sri Ram saw a heap of bones, when he learned that these were the bones of saintly people, holy people, servants of the Lord who had come there to practice austerity, this is what had happened to them. He took the vow that he would cleanse the forest of the demon horns. And that is what he undertook to do. He did that, and the Dandak forest becomes a beautiful forest with its original charm. This Ramayana should be read when we see little instances like this, or even big sections. We should look 3-4 times into it, because there is always a meaning behind this. See this Ikshwaku you will also find in Gita, but I will leave that story. This time is going on. We are like the sons of Ikshwaku. Somehow, some badness has come into us, some terrible errors humankind has made, and that has resulted in the fall of mankind. And this body which should have been pure has lost its spiritual glory and beauty. It is only when these demonic qualities that we have in us, the bad qualities that we have in us, it is only when Sri Ram comes in, and he will only come into this Dandaka forest if we invite him. If we know we have messed up in a spiritual way, then we will ask the Lord to come through prayer, sadhana, etc. And when that happens, then slowly this Dandaka forest that is here will slowly be cleansed, the demons will be out, and rishis will recite. Rishis would recite, meaning that when I read the scriptures, I will find that the voices of the rishis, the teachings of the rishis are actually echoing from inside me. This Kara Dushan, of course, the Surpanaka story, they were both of them killed at the time. And this Lord confers immortality on two characters, Tulsidas ji said, servants such as Shabari and Jatayu. The Shabari Ma belonged to a clan, Shabaras. They were Shudras actually. They would gather fruits and they would gather honey from the forest and they made a living by selling them. Now her guru was Rishi Matanga. And he was leaving his body. He said, my dear child, you stay here until Sri Ram comes, wait for him. When he comes, worship him and Lakshmanji, then you can leave the body. And that is what has happened. She has waited. This very beautifully portrayed in Ramanand Sagar's movie. And how day after day she waits for him. Because this, in Tulsi Ramayan, it does not say that she tasted the fruit and then fed. Sometimes the commentary is that she was too cultured to know the etiquette that she should not do that. But others say that she was a devotee and that law did not apply. I do not know, I have not read where the story comes from. It seems to be a traditional story that has come. I have not seen it written in any text like this. Sri Ram also gave liberation to Jatayu. Jatayu and his brother, they were both vultures. They both wanted to fly up to the sun. Jatayu said, no, it is too hot, we are going to destroy ourselves, and he came down. But his brother continued, and his feathers were burnt and he fell down to the ground. Later on, this Jatayu becomes a friend of King Dasharatha and later serves Sri Ram. When Mother Sita is being abducted, he fights in defense of Mother Sita with Ravana. His wings are cut off, he falls to the ground and he dies in the arms of Sri Ram. Now his brother had also fallen down to the ground and he could not move, etc., because his wings were burnt. Only when he tells the monkeys who had come there in search of Mother Sita, they were at the southern tip of India, and across in Lanka was Mother Sita. He was able to see them, and he tells them, look, she is there, and you have to go across and find her. At first he thought there's good, lovely food is here for them, but when he serves Sri Ram by telling them, this is how you go there, because she is there, his feathers grew up again. This is an indication that if you have lost anything in life by doing the wrong thing, by taking a wrong turn in our spiritual journey, for life is a spiritual journey, if you have made a wrong turn, if you return to serving God in whatever way, directly or indirectly, then our strength, spiritual strength, returns to us. Lord also gives protection to two, Sugriva and Vibhishan. Sugriva's story you all know, how he was accused by his brother of usurping his throne. But Sri Ram takes his help and he is given the throne in Kishkinda, and it is Sugriva who sends the monkeys in search of Mother Sita. And Vibhishan, was the brother of Ravana. But amongst them all, he was sattvic, and even when he was given the boons, he asked for the boon of being devoted and being dharmic. And his whole life is based on dharma and devotion to the Lord. And he, in one instance, also advises Sri Ram. But the name is greater than that, because by taking the name, although Lord had given protection to two, the name gives protection to anyone who is able to do japa on this. So innumerable souls get the benefit, though not having Sri Ram with them, they have the name of Sri Ram, and in that way it is better than having being with the Lord, which means to attain that one has to go to a different world at a time. And okay, I think this brings us to an end here. Lastly, he says Sri Ram has to build a bridge across to get to Lanka, and he has to use monkeys and bears for this. But if we repeat the name of Sri Ram, we are easily able to cross over this world, which is like the watery area between Lanka and the mainland of India. Lord had to build a bridge. We who chant the name of the Lord do not need to build a bridge, because the name itself is a bridge that will carry us across to the Lord. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Guru Namaste.
Thank you so much, Kissoon Behari. That was so beautiful. He has done extensive research, as you can see. He's gone into it very thoroughly. He's given us a comprehensive picture. He's given us, in just half an hour, he kept to his time. He told him that he must try and do it within 30 minutes. He kept to his time, and he gave us very, very beautiful insight into the first 25 verses of the Ramkissoon. Thank you so much, Kissoon Behari, for all the trouble you have taken and so beautifully presented